Overnight, Ottawa pulled the trigger on a trade law Washington never saw coming, and it could hit America's farm belt like a wrecking ball. For decades, U.S. farmers relied on Canada as a steady buyer and supplier. Now, one policy change is threatening to choke supply chains, send grocery prices surging, and push rural towns into economic freefall. And here's the kicker: 7 states are in the crosshairs, and the damage won't be evenly spread. From the Corn Belt to cattle country, the fallout could be brutal. We're counting down the most at-risk states, starting with one that feeds the world and could be just weeks away from a farm crisis. Number 7. Iowa. Iowa isn't just farmland. It's the command center of America's corn and soybean empire. Every year, it produces more corn than entire nations, fueling dinner tables at home and feeding markets across the globe. But that dominance hangs by a thread. Iowa exports over $4 billion in corn and soybeans to Canada annually, a lifeline that could disappear overnight if tariffs hit. But here's where things get dangerous. With Canada's new export restrictions, Iowa farmers could suddenly find themselves paying a lot more just to plant the same fields they've been cultivating for generations. Imagine a farmer in rural Iowa who has been buying Canadian fertilizer for 20 years, waking up to find the price has doubled, or worse, that it's simply not available anymore. The planting season is a race against time, and even a delay of a few weeks can slash yields and wipe out profits. Iowa's corn isn't just a crop. It's livestock feed, ethanol for our fuel, and the base for thousands of everyday products. When that supply chain breaks, the shockwaves ripple across the Midwest, driving up grocery prices, spiking fuel costs, and stalling exports. A single policy change in Ottawa could slash Iowa's exports and hit the U.S. economy like a slow-moving storm. For a state moving billions in corn to Canada each year, even a small disruption can spiral into a crisis farmers have long feared. Number 6. Nebraska. In Nebraska, beef isn't just business. It's a way of life, driving the state's economy from the plains to the packing plants. From massive cattle feedlots stretching across the plains to golden fields of corn and grain, this state is built on agriculture. But what many people don't realize is just how dependent Nebraska's success is on its northern neighbor. Canadian feed supplements keep those feedlots efficient, and grain trade keeps costs from spiraling out of control. On the other side, Canadian buyers are a lifeline for Nebraska's beef processors, purchasing millions of dollars worth of product every year. Now imagine what happens when Canada slams the brakes with a new export law. Feed prices spike almost overnight, making it more expensive to raise cattle. Processing plants start to feel the pinch as orders from Canada slow down, forcing tough choices for workers and ranchers alike. And when rural Nebraska's agricultural economy takes a hit, it doesn't stop there. It spreads to truck drivers, grain elevators, equipment suppliers, and small-town businesses that rely on farm income to survive. This isn't just a trade hiccup. It's the kind of slow-burning economic shock that could hollow out rural communities and weaken Nebraska's role as one of America's key food suppliers. Coming up next, a state that ships more wheat to Canada than almost any other, and could be days away from a storage disaster. Number 5. Wisconsin. Wisconsin isn't just America's dairyland by name. It's the dairy capital of the country, producing more cheese than any other state and supplying milk and specialty products to buyers around the world. But one of its most loyal and lucrative customers sits just across the northern border, Canada. For decades, Canadian demand for Wisconsin's cheese, milk powder, and other dairy goods has kept thousands of family farms afloat. Now, with Canada's new export law tightening the flow of agricultural trade, that lifeline is under threat. If Wisconsin's products can't cross the border as easily, farmers could face overflowing storage tanks of milk, unsold cheese aging in warehouses, and falling farm gate prices that don't even cover production costs. For big dairy corporations, it's a hit to profits. But for small, family-run farms, the ones passed down through generations, it's a potential death sentence. These are people already working on razor-thin margins, waking up at 4 a.m. to milk cows in the dead of winter, and holding on through years of volatile markets. Without steady Canadian demand, Wisconsin could see a cascade of farm closures, a loss of rural jobs, and a blow to the state's identity as the nation's dairy powerhouse. What's happening here isn't just an economic shift. It's the slow unraveling of a tradition that has defined Wisconsin for over a century. Number 4. Minnesota. Minnesota's agricultural backbone is more intertwined with Canada than many realize. Its vast soybean fields, golden stretches of corn, and sprawling sugar beet plantations don't just feed America, they feed a trade lifeline across the northern border. Canadian buyers help keep Minnesota's harvest moving, while Canadian-made fertilizers, machinery, and parts keep its farms running at full capacity. But with Ottawa's new trade restrictions, that lifeline is under threat from both ends. Reduced Canadian orders could leave storage silos overflowing and farm incomes shrinking, while rising costs for essential supplies could push already thin margins into the red. And the fallout wouldn't stop at the farm gate. It would ripple through trucking fleets, rail lines, food processors, and small-town businesses that depend on farm income. A decision made in Ottawa might feel far away, but for Minnesota's heartland, it's the kind of storm you can see forming on the horizon, and it's moving in fast. If you're in a farm state, hit subscribe. This story's just heating up. Number 3. North Dakota. North Dakota's agricultural lifeblood runs straight through its connection with Canada. This is prime wheat country, producing world-class grain, canola, and durum wheat that often crosses the northern border before reaching American shelves. Canadian demand helps keep prices stable and prevents local markets from becoming oversaturated. But Ottawa's new export restrictions threaten to snap that crucial link. Without Canadian buyers, grain elevators could overflow, forcing farmers into the painful choice of selling at a loss or watching their harvest rot. And the shock wouldn't stay on the farm. It would ripple through trucking companies, railroads, grain processors, and even the small-town diners that feed harvest crews. In North Dakota, agriculture is a tightly interlocked system, and Canada is one of its essential gears. Remove that gear, and the entire machine risks grinding to a halt. For a state built on farming, this isn't just an economic setback, it's the tremor before a potential quake. Number 2. South Dakota. South Dakota's wide-open plains may seem serene, but its farm economy is anything but idle, and Canada plays a pivotal role in keeping it moving, from wheat, soybeans, and corn to beef exports. A steady flow of products heads north, while vital inputs like feed ingredients and supplies make the return trip south. Ottawa's new export restrictions threaten to choke off that two-way lifeline, hitting South Dakota from both sides, with higher costs for essentials and fewer buyers for its goods. In a state where rural communities are tightly interlinked, the fallout would reach far beyond the farm, touching equipment dealers, feed mills, banks, and small-town businesses that depend on agricultural dollars. Without Canadian demand, prices for wheat and beef could tumble, leaving silos full but profits hollow. And in a sector where momentum is everything, even a short disruption could drag on for years, turning a policy shift across the border into a full-blown rural economic crisis. If you're still here, you're not just watching the news, you're decoding it. Hit that subscribe button and stay in the loop while others are left guessing. Number 1. Illinois may not appear the most vulnerable at first glance, but its deep integration with Canada's trade network puts it right at the top of the risk list. As a powerhouse in corn, soybeans, and pork production, Illinois relies heavily on Canadian buyers to keep its agricultural engine running year-round. Its extensive rail lines, interstate highways, and river ports are built for cross-border efficiency, moving goods in both directions with precision. But if Ottawa tightens export channels or shifts purchasing priorities, Illinois faces a double blow: steeper costs for Canadian imports like fertilizer and machinery, and shrinking demand for its own crops and meat. For a state that doubles as both a major producer and the Midwest's transport hub, any slowdown here would send shockwaves across the region, transforming a policy decision in Canada into a full-scale supply chain disruption. Canada's new export laws aren't just about food safety. They're a direct strike at America's farm belt. Iowa, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Illinois, all taking hits in revenue, exports, and jobs. If it were your state, would you fight back or watch it fall? Comment your answer and subscribe, because this battle's just getting started.